Costin here with easily the single worst campaign in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, Daniel, the Demon Prince. Why Daniel? Well, you can thank Creative Assembly for using that in pre-Immortal Empires marketing for why this name has stuck. But really, the Demon Prince is not a great campaign, but it is a relevant one to talk about because Creative Assembly may very well add Galatkin once the Lords of the End Times DLC comes out. Or at least that's what the leak that got everything correctly with Tides of Torment indicated. So it is something to take seriously. Now, they very well could do Galatkin with Nurgle. That would make sense from a lore perspective, but it could also be an opportunity to do Galatkin, rework the Demon Prince, and give Be'lakor the option of playing as a Demons of Chaos faction as opposed to a Warriors of Chaos one, which he currently is. I think that was the intent originally with Be'lakor, but then Creative Assembly realized, okay, we're reworking Warriors of Chaos, we would need to rework the Demons of Chaos in order to make Be'lakor work, because the entire race, if you will, is based around Daniel's specific mechanics. And oh boy, those mechanics, they've never been good. You know, I really do believe that one of the major problems of Realms of Chaos is how the races were designed. Every single one of them with the exception of Cathay, and only to some extent with Cathay. Once the races of Warhammer 1 and 2 were added with Immortal Empires, the game changed substantially. So let's consider the issues with Daniel, and maybe this is something that Creative Assembly should take a good look at when they're designing Total War 40k, which is going to have a level of customization that they might be inspired from this campaign, and the things they should avoid. So first off, faction effects don't exist. All you do have are basically text indicating that you have certain mechanics for your specific faction. So you don't have a research tree, and you don't have items that you can equip on Daniel. Instead, you have demonic glory. Now, you might think this stands as a research tree, but it doesn't really replace one, and if it's a research tree, it's a pretty damn bad one, I'll be honest with you. I mean, think of this as an example. In order to unlock heroes in this campaign, you need to get a certain level of demonic glory with specific monogods. So Plague Ridden with Nurgle, Blood Reaper with Khorne, Aluris with Slanesh, and Horror with Siege. That means, one, you actually have fewer heroes than some of the monogods. Secondly, you have not really the best heroes, because you have demon units, or demon heroes and lords, as opposed to mortal ones. And mortal ones are better. That's one of the aspects they should work on. It has to do with survivability. Sure, Blood Reapers are very survivable, but things like Plague Ridden and Aluris and Horrors, not necessarily so much. So that's one of the key issues when you're talking about that specific situation. And when you're looking at Horrors and Plague Ridden, it's kind of redundant because both of them give you casualty replenishment. Increasing hero capacity is done through tier 3 settlement. So you get a settlement to tier 3, and then you have certain buildings that can increase capacity. So you either have a barracks at tier 3, or you have a specific quote-unquote economic building to some extent, or a corruption building that can give you extra money if certain conditions are met. And yeah, that's not really a great system, because Daniel has really bad construction times. Like, a provincial capital at tier 3 takes 6 turns. At tier 2, it's 5 turns. A basic barrack structure takes 3 turns. At tier 1, like, it's bad enough for some races that it takes 2 turns, looking at Tomb King's default, but 3 turns for a basic military structure is pretty damn awful. And then, of course, you have to consider the fact that without owning specific Monogod DLCs, you're actually going to have a far lesser faction. Specifically, Champions of Chaos gives you all the Marauder types, so Marauders of Tzeentch, of Nurgle, of Khorne, for instance, or Devoted Marauders of Slaanesh, if you're going for Slaaneshi settlements. And of course, you do have things like Tzaangor, Forsaken, etc. It is really an awfully designed faction in every single way you can think of. And the problem with settlements as well is some factions are just much better than others at lower tiers, at least for unit recruitment. You almost always want to go either Tzeentch or Khorne because you get Warriors of Chaos, or you get Tzaangors and Forsaken, or Blood Reapers. That is an ideal scenario. I mean, you can also think of like Blood Shrine of Khorne. Yes, the fact that this is tier fucking 2 is, one of those things, right? But all the same, there are some things that are beneficial, but there's a lot of cherry picking with what units are available and what units are not available. So yes, you do get Warriors of Chaos of Khorne. You do get Tzaangors and Forsaken, but you're missing out on some really good stuff over here. So as an example, you get Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch with halberds, right? So that's your main halberd option, but you don't get chosen. So that's the thing that drives you crazy. Like, why is it that I get Chaos Knights of Tzeentch, but I can't get Chaos Knights of Tzeentch with lances, for instance? Or if we look at Slaanesh, we don't get Chaos Knights, at least as far as I can say, right there. So we get Champions of Slaanesh if we own the DLC. It is... To say this is a gigantic mess where you might think you're making a decision and it just blows up in your face, the way the recruitment is handled, where first off, you need to dedicate, when you're taking a settlement, you need to decide who you're going to dedicate that settlement to. You can't loot and occupy a settlement to get extra money. Your economy is also bad because your baseline economic structure only generates 100. It's cheap for what it's worth, but basically this is the kind of campaign where you play a long-ass time with just few armies. And the reason you can win this campaign and do pretty well in it is because you can vassalize through diplomacy. So for instance, over here, I've gotten, if we look at the diplomatic meter, I took a settlement, I waited the turns to build this port up to tier 2, got the barracks, so that was 9 turns right here. So this is turn 30. And I also got one because, well, just various reasons, really. All the same, it's just an annoying dynamic that you're constantly dealing with as a player. Like, for instance, in Pandemius, I had to build a barracks there, took 3 turns. Once I did that, I just sold it to him, got the vassalization agreement. Just a huge level of annoyance whenever I'm playing this campaign from that. The benefit, if you want to call it a benefit, is that you get an extraordinarily large number of regiments renown. But if I'm not mistaken, so does Be'lakor, and so do Be'lakor and Archeon, and maybe even Kholek and Sigval, because, on Divide, that basically get all of the various units of the Monogods and Champions of Chaos. So that is a huge fucking list of units, and they're pretty good. You just need to gain certain levels, but yes, just being able to get all of these things is going to give you a level of power, assuming you can afford it. So that's another problem when we're talking about Daniel, the cost of things. Like, yes, eventually you do get bloodletting, and yes, you do get minor plagues of Nurgle that you can enable right here. In fact, but these plagues, they don't really do much. And yes, again, there's just a couple of things you get, but they're never really that substantial. And they certainly don't replace some of the awesome research trees we've gotten in the game since then. Because this is a Realms of Chaos launch faction. It still works fundamentally in the same way it did when Realms of Chaos came out. They've just added more stuff in terms of units, but they haven't changed the dynamics of this campaign whatsoever. As for all of the items that you get, a lot of it is pure fluff, and funnily enough, I'm not joking, Daniel himself is actually one of the worst army leaders and legendary lords in the game. He doesn't have a lord effect, he doesn't have a special skill line, he gets items that kind of make up for that, but think of it from this perspective. Root Marcher, which is a skill you can generally get on lords on level 2, is locked behind, level 6. I mean, you need, no, yeah, I mean, pretty much, because you need to spend 1 point in Glorious Warfare, 4 points, so that's 5, level 6, boom, Room Archer, or spend 6 points, basically. Yeah, so this is frustrating to deal with. Or Inspiring Presence, a basic red line skill that's useful to have because of the unique experience it gives per turn. 75 experience per turn. It's locked behind going with Khorne. And then it's just these kind of things like, oh, you want to sack settlements? You gotta go with Khorne. You want to get casualty replenishment? You gotta go with Nurgle, etc., etc. And a lot of these skills just are not good skills. Simple as that. Some of these do reduce upkeep of certain units, but they only work for him. So you can get one really powerful army, especially if you have the regiments renowned, but outside of that, it's just whatever. You don't even have landmarks to use. Like, there's a lot of really awesome landmarks in the game, but you know how many Daniel has? 0, as far as I can tell. Like, I mean, there might be some generic ones that are available. Maybe not even those, but yeah, that is... Oh, yeah, there's one in Nuln. That's fucking awesome. A tier 4 one in Nuln. It's like... Yeah, thanks, CA, really. You have a campaign without landmarks. You have a campaign with worse mechanics than many Legendary Lords even around him. Nurgle is better to play. Archaon is better to play. Arbol is much better to play. Trog is better to play. Like, virtually every single campaign that's around Daniel is just a much better campaign to play. Even from the perspective of like, oh, I want to play a toy box faction with all these awesome tools. Well, Archaon and Be'lakor are better, especially Be'lakor. Like, you can make full-on demonic armies with Be'lakor without any kind of negative aspect to it. Which is, by the way, one of the reasons why Warriors of Chaos themselves need an update to how they work. Because just you got Be'lakor, then you got everyone else, including Archaon. So those are the kind of things. And when we look at these items, a lot of them are just kind of like not really upgrades, but more side grades. Yes, there are some genuine upgrades. There's set bonuses and all that kind of stuff. But again, a lot of these do end up feeling like side grades. He's not great in combat. He's not great on the campaign map. You get a couple of benefits, but they don't really feel substantial. Here it's like, yeah, I know this build is not really great, and you probably do want to focus on a specific build to get. But is that problem? Your economy? You're better off, economically speaking, and I'm not joking on this, you're just better off getting real vassals. Like, if you can get, say, Malice Darkblade, then you can, especially if you pick a fight with Epidemius. If you get Malice Darkblade, his Dark Elf economy will boost yours up by such a significant amount, because that's how Dark Elves work. They have a significant economic benefit through the crafting district. So you're essentially best suited to just getting very, very few settlements and then selling everything else to factions just to get vassal agreements or to get money. So, for instance, 15k for Rot. But while region trading is a great thing to have, undeniably so, I think the core idea of how region trading should work is more so along the lines is something that can benefit you, but not something that should be your something you do by default. Sure, many people do it to get an advantage, but it's, again, the difference between needing to do it and versus being able to do it for certain advantages. And that's really the problem with campaigns like the Daemon Prince. Yeah, you can beat it, you can do well. I mean, an army like this is gonna demolish everything in its path, but again, limitations, limited armies, limited campaign pacing, playing the enter button simulator. And all of these things are important, I think, for a creative assembly to fix if they are ever going to add another Legendary Lord to Undivided Chaos Demons. Or if they want to add a new Legendary Lord and also put Be'lakor to have that option, which is its own discussion. Should Valakut be able to play Khorne? Yeah, I think so. Should Festus just be able to play Nurgle? I mean, he'd be worse off for it, but whatever, right? Those kind of decisions should exist, but in the case of Undivided Demons, they just play very poorly. And even if we ignore the specific issues of Daniel, the faction still needs a rework in order to allow other Legendary Lords to be added in. That's my perspective. Costin signing out. Stay tuned for more.